Keep an eye on it.
Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Before we get into the budget, though, I want to start off and address the vile racist lies and slander towards our fellow Minnesotans. Donald Trump's calling our Somali neighbors garbage and the state of Minnesota a hellhole is, I'm assuming, is unprecedented for a United States president. We've got little children going to school today who their president called them garbage. This shouldn't be that difficult of trying to conflate. Look, we see it here. If you commit crimes, you go to jail. Doesn't matter what your race is, what your ethnicity, religion. But demonizing the entire group of people by their race and their ethnicity, a very group of people who contribute to the vitality, economic, cultural of this state, is something I was hoping we'd never have to see. This is on top of all of the other vile comments. So let's be very clear. This should be easy to differentiate. You should very easily be able to say, we need to continue to work together. If there's crime, whether it's white, black, who cares, but to be able to condemn this. So I would just be very clear on this. Anyone in this state, especially elected officials, who are unable to condemn this vile attack on our neighbors in our state, you are complicit in it, and it will not stand in Minnesota. So I tell our Somali neighbors, I tell our Hmong neighbors, I tell all of our neighbors in Minnesota, you're respected, you're valued. We're proud of this state that ranks near the top in almost every single category. And I will tell you, the only thing that's hurting this state, as he so falsely claimed to a group of people, is Donald Trump himself. So with that, I want to thank MMB. Commissioner, thank you. Budget Director Mingy, Dr. Becker, thank you for that. Today, despite a worsening economy nationally, as you've seen, and because of the destabilization of the economy, the tariffs, and a lot of other things going on, Minnesota's financial position is better than when we came last time. We have recognized challenges remain out over the next 4 years, but we've grown the surplus. We have historic rainy day funds, and economic indicators still show growth here outpacing the national average. This is due in a large part to responsible budgeting. Over the last 7 years, but the last one was a tough one. I put out a very difficult budget last year. I think as you see the numbers that came up on here, we would have been better served if we would have fully enacted that budget in the cuts that I proposed that were far greater than we were seeing coming out of the legislature, but we compromised and we got it done. And now Minnesota sits in a position, as I said, rainy day funds that are historic, a budget surplus this year, protection of the very programs that we care deeply about, and we can do it again, a plan to come together. But we're facing heavy headwinds. You saw it here and you hear it from our folks. Uncertainty we're seeing comes as no surprise to any person in this state. It's no surprise to anybody who's looked at their projected health care bills coming up. It's no surprise to anybody who's gone out and shopped for groceries. It's no surprise to any farmer who has seen lost markets, or any farmer who knows that bankruptcies have doubled since January in the ag economy. It's no surprise that $40 billion sent to Argentina would have certainly been better spent here on our markets with our folks. It's no surprise to teachers trying to figure out how to make do, especially around special ed, with the destruction of the Department of Education, or any county administrator that now absorbs the bills from the big, beautiful bill that is now being pushed onto them. The president has created chaos in our economy. He sat in the Oval Office and told you, and if we listened to him and budgeted, here's what he said. He said inflation was at record highs when he took office, and it's now non-existent. That's a false statement. It was 3% in January, it's 3% now. He told us that drug prices have come down minimum of 500%. So I'm assuming you all have your checks that you get every time you go purchase drugs. He's told us that soon the income tax will go away and states will receive money from the tariffs. He's told the American people every single one of them will receive $2,000 checks. That was following up the Doge checks. If we were to create a state budget based on what the President of the United States said to the nation in a cabinet meeting, we would have chaos beyond anything that's seen. The good news is that's not going to happen. We're going to do what we've done for 7 years. We're going to sit down together. We're going to budget in the best interest of the people of Minnesota. We are going to invest in the things that make Minnesota rank first in quality of life for our children, near the top in health care. All of the things that we measure by while making sure we have long-term fiscal stability. So last year, we made smart, thoughtful decisions, and there were cuts. I'm not going to tell anybody that those were not painful. The growth, especially in the disability waivers, was outpacing where we're at. We made those tough decisions, and that's what puts us in a better place where we were. But as I said last year, that was just the first step. I think over the next coming months, you will see us put out a budget very early into the next year before the session starts that will look very similar, I'm anticipating, to what we were able to do last year. That puts us in a solid position. So look, the uncertainty that's being reflected, the chaos that's coming out of Washington, the things that are happening there, we can't control that. But in Minnesota, we can control the ability to do what we do every single year, create good, solid budgets based on factual data. We're glad to report them. We will continue to try and make government more efficient. We will continue to take and tackle the issue of fraud, of people defrauding the people of Minnesota and the state of Minnesota. We know now that those programs have been paused. We have an independent auditor from the outside. We've enacted new powers that we have to stop payments and to be able to make sure that that snapshot of what's there is. The people who did it will go to prison. And as previous governors have dealt with fraud, my goal is to make sure that those going forward have much better tools, much more safeguards around programs to be clear that improve people's lives, that help, whether it's children with autism, whether it's childcare, whether it's housing, whether it's food, nutrition, and those things are absolutely paramount. But I want to be very clear. You can do that without being racist and vile and putting people at risk. You can do that by acknowledging where there's tools to be done and do so accordingly. You can do that without canceling programs that improve people's lives because a few people took advantage of the system. So I'm grateful to the professionals that helped make this happen. I'm grateful to the legislature that we were able to work together. And now we're going to have some acknowledgments that the federal government's not going to help us. The chaos is going to continue. We need to budget to protect Minnesotans as we had. And as I said, we're setting in a stronger place because we've done that. With that, I'll take a few questions.
Governor,
yeah, Tom.
We were told that the budget forecast does not account for fraud in any specific way. Should there be a better effort made to quantify the amount of money lost to fraud?
We're doing it every day, Tom. I said we've got third-party auditors out there. We've shut these programs down for 90 days. We will have the first clear picture, I would argue, in Minnesota history exactly what the extent of this was. Certainly this is bigger on the scale where it happened, but we've seen these cases before, Medicaid fraud and other things. So I think it's really important to know where that's at. In a lot of these cases, it was federal dollars with a small matching from the state. But we will know, we will account for that. And I think, as you see, I'm very proud of this. I think our budgeting going over the horizon, being one of 16 states at AAA bond rated because of fiscal responsibility, putting in inflation, I think this suggestion of what we do going forward, is that just another safeguard to ensure we have the best budgeting? I think the fix to that is having a full accounting of where they're at and then the safeguards around it. Because the real goal here certainly is to catch people and put them in prison, but the real goal is to be on the front end to stop it. And I think some of these new tools, the stop payment that we have now, these people can go to court and try and sue me. They won't win now. They will get stopped on payment until we verify that. So it's a good point.
Lawmakers have estimated the number at least $1 billion. Have you asked for that number, and do you have any sense how much it might have eaten into a surplus?
I don't know where they're getting that number. So they're.
Think of the number.
I don't think we know yet. I think it certainly could be. We don't know on this. The one thing is when I hear it from legislatures, as everyone in this room and the press knows, is there's no data practices to know where they're coming from, so you can say whatever. We've acknowledged that this is serious, needs to stop. It is stopping. People are continuing to go to prison. I think the good news for Minnesotans to know, when that 90-day pause is over and the third-party audits are done, we will have a better picture than we've ever had, which I think is really good.
Ask the question. We did hear from budget officials that it is spending. It's in there.
The audits are not done yet. The audits are happening. They're doing the forensic audits outside of this. These are independent folks, not in state government, that are doing it. When that comes back, we will know.
Is there a timeline on that? When?
Yeah, I think it was 90 days. I don't know if is that correct, Commissioner? Yeah, so it should be end of January, I believe.
We heard in the president.
Pardon me?
Sorry, when you say end of January, what do we expect to find at the end of January?
When we get the audits back?
We'll know at that point how much fraud has impacted.
I think we'll have a better, yes, I think we'll have a better, certainly in those 14 programs. And the thing that we've done is through executive action and through what we'll ask the legislature to do, when these programs were created, that's what's really important, to put the parameters around them at that point in time. We'll have a better idea to know, and we'll be able to, in the session, be able to put those forward.
In the presentation, the federal impact wasn't as bad as it could have been. Do you have a plan to address the, rising healthcare costs and the long-term care stuff that's, made the deficit?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. And look, let's be very clear on this. The answer was, we don't know yet. Now, if they don't do the subsidies, if they roll back Medicaid, if they remove the income tax, and in this fever dream place or whatever, we yet don't know. And I think the important thing is Congress, after the longest shutdown, Congress led by a Republican president, a Republican House, a Republican Senate, the longest shutdown, simply kicked the can down the road. So those negative impacts I think you're seeing in this, and as you heard from Dr. Becker, those impacts are still yet to be seen, hard to measure. But in answer to your question, we did not go as deeply as I felt we needed to in my budget, and this is one where all of you can do that. There was a budget coming out of House Republicans and a budget coming out of me. My cuts were much deeper, and I think this forecast shows you what we compromised on tackled part of it. I think you can expect me to come back again asking for those cuts to be made to stabilize, especially in that waiver program and in some of the costs.
U.S. House Oversight Committee sent a letter to you yesterday alleging and maybe accusing you of having known about fraud as it was going on in state programs. You care to respond to that? Is that accusation fair?
Yeah, dog bites man story. I spent 8 hours there, if you recall, and nothing came out of that. I asked them to give me data. I think the most ineffective Congress in history that Representative Comer needs something to do. I will gladly go. I think in the same missive he threatened former President Obama and others. Look, I welcome to talk to him. We handle this. I said whether this is COVID, whether it's George Floyd, whether it's daily budgets, whether it's 7 years of balanced budgets, whether it's making Minnesota a great state, I'll take responsibility for fixing these things. But these are folks that just point out problems and don't do anything. These are folks that, again, drug 3 governors in front of them on immigration. You heard the DHS secretary yesterday is complaining with a made-up number that 50% of our Somali neighbors are here on fraudulent visas, and that's my fault. You would think if you're the Secretary of Homeland Security that you would know the state has nothing to do with the issues of visa, that it's the federal government. So I will gladly comply with what they need. I would fully expect them not to do what Americans are asking them to do, reduce cost, do your job that you need to do in getting us a budget, invest in research, but that's not what we're getting out of them. This is just more distract. This is what you do. This is what President Trump, the reason President Trump is throwing racial slurs out, the reason he's throwing horrific slurs at me on Thanksgiving Eve or to Ilhan Omar is because he's failing on every front. It's because it's collapsing around him. And so we'll do our best to keep looking out for Minnesota.
A quick question about when you knew or became aware, growth in these programs was
we can put out everything on there. Yes,
there's come up in these forecasts before, some of the programs that were exploding in growth. The housing program, the autism, that didn't raise any alarm.
These are new programs, a lot of them. Some happened ahead of time. And I think for all of us, there have been these incidents, whether it's in Medicaid, Medicare, whatever it would be. And as soon as they're brought forward, we address them. We have commissioners that deal with them in each of that. We have the professionals who deal with them in each of it. When we bring them forward and we believe it's happened, we refer them to the BCA, who then refers them for prosecution. I can tell you one thing is these are programs I care deeply about. These are programs, and I have a track record of doing this as being very fiscally responsible and fiscally conservative. I can assure you that there is no one angrier about this than me, because I know what the Republican response is to cut these programs. Just cut them in their entirety, and then we won't have to worry about them. So rest assured, as soon as I find out about this, and if it were up to me when we were talking about doubling penalties or whatever, fine by me. You put these people as long as you want. We'll be there to help.
What have you learned about the immigration enforcement operation underway in the state? Does the state have any information on how many people may have been detained? Do you have any concerns about the reports about how agents are conducting business? And looking ahead, what worries you about the shape this effort could take in the days and weeks ahead?
Everything worries me about the way this immigration reform is happening. Masked folks showing up, not indicating who they are, and I want to thank the leaders, and I want to thank Chief O'Hara and others who made note of this, randomly terrorizing people. And Donald Trump made it clear. If there's no other story in Minnesota, the President of the United States called Minnesotans garbage and a hellhole. These are doctors, these are teachers, these are entrepreneurs, these are children without any evidence whatsoever. And so I worry deeply about this. We're getting no communication. And I want to be clear. The folks they bring in here aren't the folks we normally work with. Our law enforcement, State Patrol, BCA, they have working relationships with people. These folks come in and do it and cause massive chaos. And then when Minnesotans step up and express their First Amendment rights, we have to send our people in, and they're confused on why St. Paul Police, Minneapolis Police, State Patrol is showing up on this, because we have no idea, and our responsibility is to make sure that they're safe. So I have to tell you, this is absolutely unprecedented. What I will tell you is it appears very little's being done. They bring these folks in from Texas or somewhere like that. I'm sure they're too cold to get out of their cars to harass people, but they're doing it in New Orleans. It's all about show. It's not about, they demonized an entire group, potentially 60,000 people, based on racial profiling. There are only about 300 people with the protective status that were here. So mothers, fathers, college students home on Thanksgiving. At the same time, we give a pardon to one of the biggest drug importers to the United States and the ex-Honduran president. And when it comes to fraud, by the way, we should be prosecuting these people in Minnesota, because you know what I fear about? Pardons from this guy. One of the biggest frauds, billions of dollars committed on this. A jury in America sentenced that guy to 40 years in prison. He served 12 days and Donald Trump gave him a full pardon. So if you're concerned about fraud, and if the Republican friends come up here and start talking, they need to be asked, are you okay with that pardon? Are you okay with the president calling our neighbors garbage? Are you okay with him referring to Minnesota as a hellhole, unfactually untrue? This creates danger. And I'll tell you what, in my time on this, I'd never seen this before. People driving by my house and using the R word in front of people. This is shameful. And I have yet to see an elected official, a Republican elected official, say, you're right, that's shameful. He should not say it. So look, I'm worried. We know how these things go. They start with taunts, they turn to violence. So deeply concerned. The good news here in Minnesota is a budget that works, smart budgeting over the last few years that led us to a solid position. We will tackle crime, whether it's drug crime, whether it's fraud crime, and we will do it based on the individual who commits it, not a generalization to a group of people. And in spite of the headwinds we're up against, Minnesota ranks economically, economic growth, happiness, number of people insured, education levels, near the very top. So I'll tell you what, I have no interest in having this state look like Oklahoma or Mississippi. And if folks are going to commit crimes here, thinking because our generous spirit and our programs that we have is going to give them some kind of cover, they are sadly mistaken. So grateful to all the folks who work on this. Look forward to putting out a budget here shortly. Look forward to us moving into another legislative session. And as you heard the commissioner say, we've got time to do this. And I'm going to thank the folks who have been part of this again. One of the few states that budgets over the horizon, because if we did it like other states, the only thing you'd be hearing is we have a $2.5 billion surplus and everything's fine. That's lazy. It's not the way to do it. So adding in inflation, going over the horizon, gives us the time to budget without disrupting people's lives or cutting the programs that really matter. So thank you all. Thank you all.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. We're good? Good. All right.